Hey everyone, welcome back to Profit Share Mastery Podcast. My name is Press McKissack, and today we just wrapped up, Linda and I just finished an amazing podcast episode, and I just wanted to give you a quick teaser before you jump in to everything you're going to hear today. Linda, it's kind of funny, I doubted her on the front end, and you'll see if she proves me wrong or not. Time will tell, so make sure you listen to the end of the episode to see. But Linda is at her mountain house in Whitefish, Montana, has been meeting with interior designers to plan out some renovations they're going to do. And she reached out to me the other day and said, hey, I've got 4 lessons that I've learned from these interior designers. And so throughout this episode, you're going to get to hear her 4 lessons. She's going to talk about how you want to give value on the front end of a relationship and a conversation. She talks about the importance of being prepared. She talks about asking questions and identifying people's value gaps through the process. And then ultimately, she's going to help us all learn what to say if someone reaches out and says, you're just trying to recruit me, right? And so what's funny is all of this, as random as that may sound, it actually all really applies to profit share and to what Linda's been experiencing with interior designers. So today's going to be a real treat. So dive in, and we can't wait to add value to your life.
Welcome to the Profit Share Mastery Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Press McKissack.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Profit Share Mastery Podcast. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Press McKissack.
Hey, Press. How are you?
Hey, Linda.
We're back again talking about our favorite subject, profit share.
I know. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny, Press, because I think, one of the reasons in our community we really want people to spend time and energy like listening to this podcast, showing up for our masterminds. We do now do a free call once a month for every office. The reason we want to do that is because it's a muscle. And when you build that muscle, you start to see things in every situation that you're in. And I was remembering a quote, I think it was by Madeleine Albright, that said, what matters matters everywhere. And so when you think about that, if something's really important to you, you should start to see signs everywhere that validate, especially if it's a good model. If it's a good model that you're following, you'll start to see signs everywhere to validate that model. And so you and I feel like we have a great model for recruiting influential agents. And then we also have a great model for people who want to build their downline across the country with new agents who come in every year and have to name a sponsor. So this week I really had an opportunity. These are kind of the 4 lessons that I learned from interviewing interior decorators or designers. Let's just say designers because they got to work with the plans for our Montana house this past week.
Well, Linda, real quick, what's funny about that is you when I was like, hey, what should we talk about this week? And you're like, you know what? Let's talk about the lessons I learned from interior designers. And I'm like, how's that going to relate to what in the world? And you're like, trust me, it'll relate. So yeah. I'm on pins and needles because I'm ready to hear what these 4 lessons are and how they relate to helping people grow their profit share.
Well, and remember, Madeleine Albright says what matters anywhere matters everywhere. So good things and good solid, lessons you should see the clues everywhere. Yeah, so I interviewed, I don't know, maybe we started with phone calls first. And a lot of times, like we talk about, when you go to call on a recruit to build a relationship, you've got that phone call as an opportunity to become valid enough to that person to possibly get an in-person meeting. I mean, that's kind of the rhythm and the formula that we teach everybody. And so that's what I did. I made phone calls to people. I could kind of listen and tell who I thought was valid enough for me that when I was up here last week to actually have a one-on-one appointment with. And so it started there. And so I think I narrowed it down to 3 groups. And the 3 groups that came, what I really learned was, first of all, they were not prepared at all. And I'm thinking, wow, this could be us not prepared for an opportunity that's right in front of us to recruit someone to Keller Williams or to begin the process. Because remember, we're not good enough to recruit someone to Keller Williams. They get to self-discover that it's right for them. But even to get the door open for that process to start, they weren't prepared at all. They didn't come in with, any preparation and almost feeling like they were afraid that I was going to think that they were trying to
Sell
get my
you?
business, which is what I wanted them to do, right? I'm there, I'm sitting at the table. I want you to help me in a value gap that I have. And we talk about,
Yeah.
agents' value gaps. And very quickly, if they had been prepared, and, which leads me to one of the other ones was they didn't ask any questions. And, in our process, we teach you to ask great questions so that you can figure out real quick where someone's pain point is or their value gap is. And not a single one of them did a very good job of that. Give value first. And that's what we teach in the formula is figure out what their value gaps are and start dropping things into those value gaps and create that reciprocity and that beholdenness right off the bat. And so I just was thinking about the formula as these people came in and nobody was doing it. I'm like, we could teach these people a thing or two about how to recruit business. Because like we always say, this influential model formula that we teach, which is the R, who do you want to be a hero to? V, what is your validity for them to even give you the time to build, to be in relationship with them? What is their biggest VG, their value gap? And then how much time am I going to need to spend helping them self-discover that their value gaps can be better solved at Keller Williams? And so I always think about this formula because what matters anywhere matters everywhere. And I'm always looking for, are people doing these without unawareingly knowing that they're actually following the formula, right? And the good ones really, really do.
Well, Linda, what's interesting, something that popped in my head when you said that was, you realize that everyone has different views of sales, right? So call it recruiting, call it sales, it's all the same thing, right? Whether you're trying to help a client or whether you're trying to bring someone to the company, it's the same thing, right?
Exactly.
It's just the process of sales. Now, what's interesting is you really think about this for a second. Put down all of your preconceived notions about sales, whether you think sales is the best or whether you think sales feels slimy. Bottom line, you can't help people if you don't sell them.
Right. Well, and sell them meaning help them self-discover that the needs that they have can be better served if I pick them. I mean, they have to truly first believe. And by the way, this is the same for everybody that wants to build their downline. You got to believe with all your heart that there's value here for those people to get what it is they want. Now you got to start with that. So what I love about what we teach them to do when they go try to find things to drop in people's value gap is I know it helps them find things that they need to build their business even more, right? So it's going to keep validating to them too. Oh my gosh, we have such amazing tools, right? And sometimes inside we get busy and don't utilize them and forget ourselves. So we almost have to rediscover ourselves. And so my thought for each of these interior designers would be they should believe with all their heart that what they have to offer is going to solve whatever my value gaps are. But first of all, they didn't ask questions, so they didn't really understand where my true value gaps were, you know? And so that to me would have been part of a process that they learn, just like we teach in Profit Share Mastery, that you got to follow this formula and you got to learn to ask great questions. And then what are the best ways to, get them in that conversation on the phone to want to further that relationship with you. And some of those interior designers didn't do it. They didn't make the cut because they didn't have anything to be able to add value in the conversation to move to the next level. Well, same thing happens when you call a recruit.
Yeah, I'm curious. One of the things we talk about is like when you're adding value to people, right? You're building that relationship. One of the things that's important in our process is that you don't give everything away up front. You have something to follow up with. Did any of the ones who you talked to, did they leave with anything to provide you like a follow up or do anything, or was it just they just did a really bad job?
No, there was not anything that, because they didn't ask any questions, they didn't know what my value gap was. Now, what would have been great, to be honest with you, is because the questions I asked them should have given them clues. Like, okay, where do we start with this? Because my brain doesn't work like that. I know what I like when I see it, and I can go gather ideas, but I don't really understand the flow of how this is supposed to work And because I'm a super busy person, I need to know in advance what decisions I'm going to need to make. Not a single one of them. Otherwise, you know what they would have sent me right when they left? A checklist of what process we're going to follow to get me to the end outcome that I'm looking for. So that's a really good point. There wasn't even enough questions to know what a next step with me would be. And I'm going to venture to bet, out of the three, I bet two might follow up and one won't follow up at all. Follow through is the biggest, is we've said before, follow through is the biggest gap that a lot of, salespeople have, whether you're trying to recruit or sell or whatever.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting. But yeah, I would say, yeah, give value first, I think, is the other thing, is quickly think of what is some value. So in a recruiting conversation, like the one guy we did pick, he actually gave us an idea for, there's the railing that's in the Montana house that's upstairs around the exercise room. It's got these big red, well, you can see the door behind me if you're watching this, but it's red and it's got fish cut out of it. And I don't really want that look. I'd rather have, and we were thinking about iron, and he said, yeah, you could do iron, but glass would be pretty in it too, because there is glass kind of going up the stairway. And so that was a really good idea. And that was a little carrot that he dangled in front of us of, oh, you think this is good? I know a whole lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to do when we're trying to get someone to, so it's almost like, I had a call the other day with a $10 million producer. And during that, I'm looking for, where does this person need help? That's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about, are they coming? Are they not coming? Will they ever come? Not thinking about that. I'm thinking, what am I hearing this person say? Where is their pain points? And where's something, a story, an example, an idea that I can drop to them to get them, that when I ask this person, say, hey, when I'm in town, I'd love to meet you for coffee and continue to get to know you. They're going to say yes, because I've already shown them that I have value to help them. That's the formula, right? That's how you get them to take another step. But you got to be willing. And some of the ones I interviewed almost felt like they would rather hold back. Mm-hmm. But when you hold back, I don't know what you really have to offer anyway. I don't really know what the value is for me to continue forward with this relationship. And what's interesting is one of them that really would have been I don't know if she'd have been, I think she would have been Dad's second choice. She might have been my third. She did a terrible job when she came in. No presentation at all. And she might have even been the one that charged us a fee to come out, which I was willing to pay, but at least give me something for my fee, $200 fee you charged me.
Go ahead.
But anyway, we did go to her studio the next day and look at it. And if she had had us meet her there first, or she had kind of described her studio, she probably would have had a better chance.
That's a good kind of a segue here. Did any of them, again, we talk about, I'm just relating this back to growing our profit share. We have so many resources and tools at KW. Did any of them give you or offer up any, like what we would consider a lead magnet, a mofer, a piece of value? Is there anything in particular that they offered up that would have been, perceived as like additional value?
Nothing.
Interesting.
I mean, nothing. That's what made me really realize that this is a great formula. And like I've always said, it's the same formula I use to build my real estate business to over 200 transactions a year. And we've seen it work again and again in recruiting. But it's one of those things that it works everywhere. And I really saw it, not be followed with these interior designers. And the one that even got close a little bit by giving a little bit of value while he was here in the meeting got the job, So, and the other thing too, Press, is he didn't feel like he was trying to sell us anything, which we know in recruiting you can't do that. It doesn't work. Throwing up on people, talking all about Keller Williams, it doesn't work. But one of the things that you and I have talked about is I think people are so afraid that someone is going to think that they're trying to recruit them that they don't try to recruit them because none of us are good enough to recruit someone, right? They can't be recruited. We have to get them to a place where they self-discover. And so that really is just building a relationship, adding value enough to keep the people engaged, to keep moving along our path. And I just felt like that if they had followed this better, it would have been, I mean, we could have very easily picked any of those three, but because it was just no value, and we're busy and we need people who we feel like we can depend on to get the job done and connect with, and all of those things.
Yeah. Well, there's a confidence level too when you show up and you understand what you provide, right? And
Yeah.
you show up and you're adding value and you feel confident, and people feed off of that, right? People are buying because you've not worked with them before. They're buying your confidence in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and this was a different situation because these people were at my table, which should tell them I have a very big value gap. I need someone to help me fill. But even on the phone calls, if they had followed the formula on the phone calls, asked great questions, and dangled a little bit of value to make me want to move them to the next spot,
Yep.
that would have, I'd have probably had 5 interviews instead of 3 or 6 even.
Yeah.
But some of them were so bad even on the telephone. But that leads me to think, in real estate you get these same opportunities over and over, whether it's taking a listing, working with a buyer, or an opportunity to build your profit share with an agent. They happen a million times. And being prepared and comfortable, because you are prepared, makes such a difference. I mean, just to know that, okay, all I got to do is when I get in front of somebody is immediately start asking questions about them, get to know them, see if I can figure out where their pain is, what their value gap is, and then add enough value in that conversation to let them see your validity, that it's worth their time to continue this relationship with you. And then, start dropping things into that value gap. I mean, the very first thing that I would have killed for, and now what I've done is I've called Caitlin, which is Dana's sister-in-law, who's a interior designer, and said, hey, do you have a checklist? And so I really think that we just, it's real simple, but if you're not prepared for every opportunity, whether it's a listing, a buyer, or a recruiting opportunity, you're going to botch them. So just being prepared enough of the times and being able to see the opportunity and know immediately what you're supposed to be doing, you'll win so many more times. Many more times, which that kind of leads me to, sometimes I think you and I see the holdback with some of our people in our group. The reason they're on the front end a little bit afraid to do this is either they've tried to recruit somebody wrong in the past, right? Or the people have been attacked by Keller Williams people in the past, or some other company, and they're just tired of it, right? That's why we always have to be prepared. And I think more than anything, be prepared in your own mind. What would you say if someone said, well, I just feel like you're trying to recruit me? Because I think that's something that holds a lot of people back from even being prepared and following this kind of formula. And so what we always teach in the class is, here's the thing to say. If someone says, well, I feel like you're just trying to recruit me, number one, check the way you're doing it, because they should not feel that way at all. But they could have past experiences either from you or from someone else that make them on their toes about anybody with Keller Williams or any other company that recruits. So you need to be prepared by saying, you know what, Press, here's the thing. You're an amazing agent. And you're exactly the kind of agents that we want to be that I want to be in business with. But here's what I know for sure. Man, if you ever think that what you need to reach your dreams and your family's dreams is better served with the tools that are over at Keller Williams, I won't have to recruit you. You'll knock our door down. And then go right back to talking about them, which is what you should have been talking about in the first place.
Yep.
But the odds of it happening is so slim, but I think the mental thought that it might hold so many people back. And because they're not prepared, they start selling Keller Williams when that happens. Same thing when you're on a listing presentation. The worst thing you can do is when someone says, why should I pick you, is start telling them why they should pick you. That's not the right answer, right? So I think prepared is really important, because you'll get 1,000 opportunities and you will either take advantage of them or you'll just miss them because you're not prepared. You haven't really thought through the formula and the process, and you don't know to immediately forget about Keller Williams and just go into what's this person need? What questions can I ask them? How can I serve them? What tools do we have I can start dropping into their value gap? And then how do I get them to the next step? What stories can I tell them? What questions can I ask them? What events can I get them to so that they self-discover? I have a really cool story. This week I got called by, Bruce Hardy had us come talk to his top 100 up in Boise, Idaho. I guess it was maybe last year, the end of last year. And this guy had read 10X is easier than 2X. And he was in new home sales. And he happened to be talking to Pam up there. And I don't know how the conversation came up, but it came up. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm going to see them, I don't know, like tomorrow. You want to go with me? And so she invited him to come. And of course he said yes, because of the story in the 10X is easier than 2X, immediately created validity for him to get on a plane with her, spend a whole day to go and meet us and do that, right? And come to the class we were doing. We were doing a class on how to get to 100 million net. But anyway, what's interesting is now he's looking at a team leader role. And so he calls me the other day and he just reminds me that all of this works if we just do it. And the thing I said to him is, I'm really excited to talk to you, but I'm really sad that you're not up in the Ohio Valley region instead of you're up in the Northwest region. But, as I was talking to him, I realized how valuable our training is, how valuable it is to get people to something so they self-discover. And our story resonated with a guy who said, I want that life. And if Keller Williams is the vehicle to get there, sign me up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just proof that it works, but we have to do the work to get them to those things. We have to figure out a way to add the value enough that when we do ask them to go to a class or something, I mean, that took a lot for a guy to take a full day out of his time and get on a plane and go with her, because they were from up around Seattle somewhere. And so I don't know how far Boise is from there, but it's a plane ride, you know?
Yeah, well, it just goes to show, again, like you said, when you add value to people and when you are valid to people, the formula works.
And people can listen to this and say, well, I'm not in the 10X is easier than 2X book. No, you're not. But what could you do? You've got some validity, but you probably aren't using it. You're
Well, Linda,
probably, yeah.
good example would be, you could go down the path of becoming a KWU certified instructor. You could become a master faculty instructor. That's a select group of people in the company. You could become a coach. There are so many ways to be valid to people, and it's just about applying yourself.
Well, and here's the thing. I had a conversation with somebody who was a bowl coach the other day, and I could see a million ways that person was valid if he was using it for recruiting. I mean, my light bulbs were going off. That's, again, if you've got this as a muscle, you're going to see the opportunities that you can add validity. Everybody already has validity. Nobody thinks they do, right? So I don't even think you have to go out and get another certification or do anything. And that's another thing. If you don't really want to do that, or you just feel uncomfortable about your validity press, they can always do the profit share sites. That when somebody's new, you don't need to be that valid. You just need to have the answers they need on how do I get to somebody who can help me get in the business and make money back, because I've just spent a bunch to get licensed.
Linda, we had someone in their first month, their first month, not their 50th month, their first month, recruit 7 people into their downline. And isn't that crazy? Like, where else can you do that?
Yeah, no kidding. So I really think, the opportunities are there, whichever, and I think you should always be prepared for the influential agent, because you're going to do deals with people all day long. But it's a little more effort than press what they have to do with your profit share sites. Because the profit share sites, they're actually calling them, setting up an appointment. They don't even have to call the people to set up an appointment. So but I think everybody should do both. I mean, I think you should always be prepared, because you're always going to get an opportunity to do a cross deal with somebody. And you just need to know the process so that it's embedded in you, just like you'd know a great listing presentation before you went on a listing presentation, right? Just be prepared, because those opportunities are going to come along. That's a given. But the question is, are you going to be prepared to build that relationship deep enough that you can get them to things to get them to self-discover. And this guy, thinking about the team leader role, he was asking me, and I was teaching him the formula. The way you're going to recruit is you're going to go build a lot of relationships, but right now you probably got to go build your relationships with your ALC, because they have the relationships, but also teach your ALC how to go do this.
Yeah.
Because if an office had at least their ALC out doing this all the time, there would always be a normal feed into that team leader. There wouldn't be a gap of a feed. And by the way, when they got in front of that team leader, they'd be very clear about who their sponsor was. There wouldn't be, oh, I don't know who to pick because I've met 10 KW people and none of them really, helped me do anything.
Well, and Linda, on the flip side of that, I think it's also, we've talked about this before, but if you're an agent in KW, remember, your team leader is not just the person who manages the office. A lot of us just think of that role as that. They're the person whose job is to build your wealth. They get paid, not by you, to build your wealth. The question is, are you going to do the things, follow Linda and I's formula that we teach in order to position them to win at helping you do that?
Yeah. It would be like having money that you needed to invest with your financial planner and never giving them the money and wondering where your return is.
Except what's better about this relationship is that it doesn't need the money. It just needs the relationship. Hey, I've developed another relationship. Here's a person to like that is the best kind of return, because you're not putting money into something. You're not risking your money. You're more risking a relationship, which is never going to hurt you in this business.
Yeah, so true.
Well, Linda, I did not think that we were going to learn so much from you talking to interior designers, but I have to say I'm impressed. Hopefully you at home listening are also impressed with how much Linda can get out of talking to interior designers and then relate that back to Profit Share.
Yeah, let me go back and recap real quick. Remember, our formula on influential agent is relationship. Who do you want to be a hero to, or who needs your service, right? Second is, what's your validity? How do you show them validity? Because people won't give you the time or go deep on a relationship till they feel like you or what you're asking them to do is valid. And then learning to ask great questions about what is their value gap, so that you actually know what to put in their value gap, and add some value so that you create reciprocity and beholdenness. And then what's the amount of time that you need to spend with these people until they self-discover that Keller Williams is the right place for them. So here's the 4 lessons I learned. Number 1, and these might not be in this order, but just all 4 of these need to happen. Give value. Don't be afraid to give a little bit of value. That's what creates your validity. Give a little bit of value, even if it's on the phone, to get them to want to go deeper with you on something else. Number 2, be prepared. You're going to have 1,000 of these opportunities. And if you aren't prepared, it's like going out on a listing presentation and never having a presentation, just winging it every time, right? You'll get a lot less of them that way. Number 3 is ask great questions so that you learn more about where their pain is. Everybody probably has a sign on their forehead that says, please help me with my value gaps, And here's the ones that are most important right now. That's a better clue. And then number 4 is be prepared to take the fuel out of someone if they happen to say, I think you're just trying to recruit me, which, by the way, you need that more than for your mental process than anything, because the 99% of the time they're never going to say that if you're following the process correctly. But be prepared to say, you're a great agent, Press. You're exactly the kind of agent we want to be in business with. But here's what I know for sure. If you ever think that the tools and the classes and the training and the things that we have at Keller Williams is going to serve you best and help you and your family reach your goals, I won't even have to recruit you. You'll knock our door down to get over here. So, and then go right back to talking about what they're talking about. Don't try to defend or sell at that moment. And then just know that you've got something prepared to say, and I think that'll help you take the first step a little more often.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. Well, Linda, thank you for time today. This was a super great episode, a little bit longer than we normally go, so you all hopefully got a little extra treat from us today. Linda, I think this is obviously super applicable to everything we're trying to help people do. If you want to go deeper with Linda and I, just be reminded, you can go to profitsharesites.com and we have the option for you to sign up for a $1 trial of our profit share sites, and you get to test drive the platform and see if it works for you. Again, I told earlier in the episode, we've had someone in their first month recruit 7 people, right? And it's amazing the results that we've seen people do. We had someone in our region, Linda, who recruited 43 people last year using our system, was number 1 in the region for growth. So the ability to go from virtually no people in your downline to 50, 100 plus has been proven over and over again that people using this platform can do that. So we'd love to see you inside of there. And then, as always, please make sure to share our podcasts with other people in KW so we can get the message out. Because the more people who go out and grow their wealth inside of this company, the more success there is and profit share there is for everybody.
Yeah, and remember, once a month we do a free call. Make sure your office is getting that message, and if they're not on it, get them on it. It's a free call that Press and I talk about profit share. We answer questions about profit share, and we add value around you trying to use profit share as one of the most valuable tools you can to build wealth. So don't forget about those. If your office is not participating already, be sure and make sure that they do. And Press, where do they find out?
I was hoping you were not going to ask me that question because I, off the top of my head, cannot remember.
Can we put the link in the show notes though for the podcast?
Yep, we will do that, and we'll post it on in the
And they
show
can go to
notes. They can get it.
Connect or somewhere, and it's usually posted there. We already got all the dates set, right?
Yeah, all the dates are set. There's a website. I'm just blanking on the website, but we'll put it in the notes below. So if you go to wherever you got this podcast, you'll be able to see it down below.
Yep. And if you have an interesting story about profit share or someone you know, we'd love to have those stories. We do have a few guests coming up that have made it over $1 million, right, Press?
Yeah, amazing. Over $1 million in profit share in the lifetime of them doing it. You proved me wrong yet again. Awesome. All right, Linda, we'll talk to you soon.